In this episode, we're going to make virtual private network, VPN, technology feel less mysterious by focusing on what a tunnel actually changes and what it does not change. Many beginners hear the word VPN and imagine a kind of invisibility cloak that makes everything safe, private, and anonymous. But that mental picture leads to painful surprises later. A VPN is best understood as a secure transport method that can protect data as it travels across an untrusted network, and that is both powerful and limited. The cryptography inside a VPN can provide confidentiality, integrity, and authentication for traffic moving between endpoints, but it cannot magically fix insecure applications, poor identity decisions, or unsafe devices. The goal today is to help you build a clear, practical understanding of what VPN tunnels do, why cryptography matters in them, where the trust boundaries really are, and what risks remain even when a tunnel is working perfectly. Once you have that model, you can reason about VPN use cases without relying on marketing promises or myths. A useful first step is defining what a tunnel means in networking terms, because that word can sound abstract. A tunnel is a method of encapsulating traffic, which means taking packets that would normally travel openly across a network and wrapping them inside another set of packets that are protected as they move between 2 points. Think of it like placing a letter inside a sealed envelope and then shipping it through a postal system where you do not trust every handler along the route. The sealed envelope is the cryptographic protection, and the tunnel endpoints are the places where the envelope is sealed and later opened. The network in between can see that something is being sent, where it is coming from, and where it is going at the outer level, but it should not be able to read or modify the inner protected content without detection. That encapsulation is why VPNs can let remote users reach internal resources or let offices connect to each other across the public internet in a way that behaves like a private link. The cryptography in a VPN serves 3 main purposes that are easy to confuse if you are new. First, confidentiality means outsiders in the middle should not be able to read the content of the traffic inside the tunnel. Second, integrity means outsiders should not be able to change the traffic without being detected, which matters because modified traffic can cause serious harm even if it cannot be read. Third, authentication means the endpoints can be confident about who they are talking to, so you are not accidentally building a secure tunnel to an imposter. These properties work together because confidentiality without integrity can allow manipulation, and confidentiality without authentication can protect a conversation with the wrong party. When a VPN is described as secure, it is really claiming that its cryptographic design provides all 3 properties under realistic threat conditions. If any of these properties is weak, the tunnel may still appear to function, but it will not deliver the security outcome you think you are getting. Now let's clarify what a VPN tunnel actually protects, because this is where myths often take over. A VPN protects traffic between the tunnel endpoints, meaning from your device to the VPN server or from one network gateway to another network gateway, depending on the design. Inside that segment, your traffic is protected from observers on the local Wi-Fi, from some types of network interception, and from many forms of traffic manipulation in transit. But once the traffic exits the tunnel at the far endpoint, it continues onward to its destination using whatever protections are present on that next segment. That means a VPN does not automatically encrypt traffic all the way to the final service unless the application itself uses end-to-end protection. The tunnel is like a protected hallway between 2 doors, not a magical bubble around the entire world. This is why it matters where the tunnel ends, because the endpoint is a place where traffic becomes visible again in usable form. A related point is that a VPN changes who can see your traffic at different points, rather than making traffic disappear. Without a VPN, a local network operator might see the destinations you contact and potentially some content depending on what the application uses. With a VPN, that local operator may see that you are connected to a VPN endpoint and may see how much data is flowing, but the destinations and content inside the tunnel are hidden from them. However, the VPN provider or the organization running the VPN now becomes the party that can see what exits the tunnel. So you are shifting the point of trust, not removing the need for trust. Beginners often assume a VPN makes them invisible to everyone, when it really moves visibility from one place to another. The practical question is always, who operates the tunnel endpoint, and what do they log, inspect, or control? It is also important to understand what a VPN does not protect you from on your own device, because cryptography cannot fix a compromised endpoint. If your laptop is infected with malicious software, that software can read your data before it enters the tunnel and after it leaves the tunnel because it lives at the endpoint. The tunnel can still be perfectly encrypted, but the attacker does not need to break the encryption when they already have access at the source. This is one of the core lessons of security architecture. Encryption protects data in transit against interception, but it does not protect against an attacker who is already inside the sending or receiving system. Similarly, if a browser is tricked into sending credentials to the wrong site, a VPN will not stop that because the VPN is faithfully transporting the traffic you chose to send. This is why endpoint security and safe user behavior remain essential even in environments that rely heavily on VPNs. Another common misconception is that VPNs automatically provide anonymity, and the truth is more nuanced. A VPN can hide your traffic details from your local network and can make external services see the VPN server's address instead of your device's address. That can reduce some tracking and can change what location-based services infer about you. But anonymity depends on much more than hiding an address, because many services can identify users through logins, device fingerprints, and behavioral patterns. Also, if a VPN provider logs connections or traffic metadata, they can potentially associate your activity with your account, depending on their policies and technical controls. In enterprise settings, VPNs are often designed specifically to identify users and record activity, because the goal is secure access and accountability, not anonymity. So the safe beginner mindset is to treat VPNs as privacy and transport tools within a defined trust model, not as a guarantee of being untraceable. Let's talk about what cryptography is doing during the VPN connection setup, because that handshake is where the tunnel earns its security properties. Before any protected traffic flows, the endpoints must agree on cryptographic settings, prove identity in some way, and create fresh secret keys for the session. This matters because long-lived keys used directly for traffic would be risky, and reuse of keys across sessions can create patterns attackers can exploit. A well-designed VPN handshake uses a process that results in new session keys, so that even if one session is compromised, it does not automatically compromise past or future sessions. It also needs to prevent downgrade behavior, where an attacker tricks endpoints into choosing weaker settings that are easier to attack. For beginners, the key idea is that the tunnel is not just an encrypted pipe. It is the result of a careful agreement process that must be protected from interference. If that agreement process is weak, the tunnel may be established under unsafe assumptions. VPNs also interact with identity and authorization, and this is where organizations often rely on them for access control. In a remote access scenario, the VPN becomes a gate that decides whether a user device is allowed onto a protected network and what parts of that network it can reach. Cryptography helps by ensuring that only authenticated users can establish a tunnel and that their traffic cannot be modified in transit, but authorization is still a policy decision. A VPN can be configured to place users into different network segments, restrict access to certain internal services, or require additional checks like device health. If those policy decisions are loose, the VPN can become a wide-open bridge from the internet into sensitive internal systems, which is exactly what defenders want to avoid. The tunnel itself is not the same as safe access, because safe access requires thoughtful limits on what the tunnel enables. This is why modern designs often treat VPN access as one part of a broader access strategy rather than a single all-powerful solution. Another important limitation is that VPNs can protect traffic, but they do not automatically protect naming and trust decisions at the application layer. For example, if you connect to a service and trust the wrong destination because of a tricked user or misdirected configuration, the VPN will not correct that mistake. The tunnel secures the path, not the correctness of the destination. Similarly, VPNs do not inherently validate that the service you reach is the intended service unless the application layer also performs its own verification. This is why application layer security remains relevant even inside a corporate network. Many serious attacks happen after an attacker gains access to an internal network, because internal traffic is sometimes less protected due to misplaced trust. The safe mindset is to treat the VPN as a transport security measure, not as a replacement for secure service identity and strong authentication to the service itself. We should also discuss traffic visibility and controls, because VPNs can enable both protection and inspection depending on where they terminate. In enterprise environments, the VPN endpoint may sit at a network boundary where organizations apply security monitoring, filtering, and policy enforcement. That can be a legitimate defensive approach, but it also means users may assume the tunnel is private while the organization is deliberately observing traffic for security reasons. From a security design standpoint, this is not contradictory. It is simply a reminder that encryption in transit does not imply privacy from the endpoint operator. In consumer environments, the same concept applies in a different way. The VPN provider can potentially observe traffic exiting the tunnel unless the application uses its own end-to-end protection. So when you hear claims about privacy, always ask, private from whom, and at which segment of the path? A final angle is understanding why VPNs remain valuable even with modern secure web traffic, because some beginners wonder if VPNs are still necessary. Many applications already protect data in transit using modern web security, which means content is encrypted between your device and the service. Even in that world, VPNs can still be useful for protecting non-web traffic, securing access to internal networks, reducing exposure on hostile local networks, and enforcing organizational access policies. They can also help centralize security controls, like requiring strong authentication for entry into an environment. But you should also recognize that VPNs can create single points of failure and attractive targets, because they concentrate access. This means VPN security depends not only on cryptography, but on strong authentication, careful authorization, and good operational monitoring. The right conclusion is not that VPNs are obsolete or that VPNs are magic, but that they are a specific tool with a specific job. To wrap up, a VPN tunnel uses cryptography to protect traffic between endpoints by providing confidentiality, integrity, and authentication, and that is a real and important security benefit. What it does not do is guarantee anonymity, fix insecure applications, protect a compromised device, or ensure that traffic remains protected after it exits the tunnel. The tunnel shifts trust to the endpoint operator, so choosing who runs the endpoint and how they manage logging and policy becomes a key security decision. Understanding handshakes, session keys, and negotiation helps you see why configuration matters and why weak settings can undermine the promise of a secure tunnel. Most importantly, treating VPNs as transport security rather than a universal shield keeps your expectations realistic and helps you make better decisions about when and how VPNs should be used.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.